People who caught their significant other cheating. What secret did you find out? Story 1. I caught my wife with my brother. I don't know how to deal with this. This actually happened almost 5 months ago, yet it still feels like I was stabbed in the heart just seconds ago. I'm a delivery driver for FedEx, so I'm never really away from home, and yet my wife is always complaining that I'm gone too long. One day, my brother told me he wants to go on vacation. I ask him where, and he says snowboarding. That same day, my wife tells me she's going on vacation with her friends. Of course, I believed her. She left a day before my brother did, so I thought there was nothing to worry about. We don't have any kids yet. 2 weeks later, my neighbor told me that my brother was holding hands with my wife. My brother is married. Somehow his wife looks a lot like my wife. I always found that weird and thought maybe, since he's older, he mistakenly confused her with his own wife. One day, I was coming home from work. All I could think about was taking a shower. I go into my room and I see my wife literally sleeping next to my brother. I'm not a fighter. I've never been in a fight before, but I grabbed his foot and yanked him off my bed. I started screaming at him. She wakes up and immediately starts saying the typical line, "It's not what it looks like." That's when I learned they had been going at this for 2 years. After that, I told his wife. This wasn't the first person he had cheated on her with, and she had finally had enough. She started divorce proceedings. I did the same. My wife begged me to forgive her. I know why. If I don't, she'll be homeless, and my brother is already homeless. I've been with my wife for 4 years. I don't believe in family anymore. My brother was the last relative I counted on. He can rot for all I care. I was warned, don't marry American women. I'm American myself, but I now believe that American women can be some of the most trifling human beings in the world. Story 2. My ex, a 32-year-old man, cheated on me, a 26-year-old woman, with a 52-year-old woman, and even tried to press charges against me. Backstory, we dated for about 5 months. At the time, I believed my ex showered me with gifts, took me on trips, and seemed very attentive because he was genuinely interested in me. Looking back, it was love bombing and overcompensation for his lies and cheating. I started to suspect he was cheating around 3 months into our relationship. When I went over to his apartment, I noticed long strands of straight black hair everywhere on the couch, the bed, the shower, you name it. I have short locks and my hair texture is curly, so there was no way this could be mine. When I asked him about it, he said it was dog hair because he dog sat from time to time. I thought this was complete nonsense, but I wanted to believe him, so I didn't bring it up again. One night, we went on a dinner date. He took pictures of me, and while he was showing them in full gallery mode, I thought I saw a photo of him with another woman in bed from the corner of my eye. I was shocked. As soon as I asked him about it, he shut off his phone and denied that anything like that existed. He refused to show me his phone, citing privacy, and said he was a very private person. He insisted he had nothing to hide, but still would not let me see his phone. When I directly asked if he was seeing another woman, he had the audacity to say I was insecure for even thinking that. He then asked, "What can I do to make you feel safer and more comfortable to believe me?" My suspicions were at 10, but because he worded his response so carefully, I fell for his lies once again. About a month later, I still had my suspicions and couldn't shake the feeling. One night, I stayed over at his apartment, and he fell asleep while we were watching a show on TV. His phone was sitting on the table, and everything in me was telling me to look through it. He had given me the passcode to his phone, but at first I hesitated because I felt I shouldn't have to do that. If we were in a relationship, I should be able to trust my partner. Eventually, I looked through his phone and saw numerous videos and photos of him and another woman in bed and in the shower, doing you know what? I looked at the dates of these videos, and the latest one was 3 days before the trip we went on for my birthday. I knew who this woman was because he had introduced me to her. We first met in a group setting. He brought a group of his friends, and she was there. He told me she was just a friend he met from skating. That's how I knew her. I looked through their messages. They didn't even talk over regular text. They only exchanged messages through Discord. Their conversations were full of dirty talk and raunchy content. At the time, we had just returned from my birthday trip, and he told her he was just traveling with a friend, but when he got back, he couldn't wait to take care of things again. I was so shocked and appalled. I screen recorded everything I saw and sent it to myself. Then I sent the recording to him via text and wrote, "This is your true mask. You're a lying and cheating psychotic bastard. You're dead to me. It's over." Mind you, he was still asleep at the time. I packed my bags, ran out of his apartment, and blocked him. I don't want to make this too long, but basically the next morning, he came to my apartment banging on my door, trying to speak to me. He spam called me from different phone numbers, emailed me, and left voicemails demanding that I call him back to decide whether to end things. I called the police because he kept banging loudly. I also called a mutual friend who told him to stop contacting me or I would file a harassment order. Then he sent me a text from another phone number, threatening to press charges of revenge porn against me, claiming I would become a felon. or we could have a 30-minute phone call. I didn't respond because he kept sending threats if I didn't call him back. It was clear he was only concerned about getting caught, not about the fact of his actions. This is the short version of my story, even though it is already long. I wanted to share my experience because I know plenty of others go through the same situation, but still choose to stay or make more excuses. If you have suspicions, do not ignore the signs. I ignored mine for months, but I'm thankful it wasn't a long-term relationship where I was completely locked in or had children with this man. I walked away and continue to live my life in peace. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Story 3. My ex-boyfriend had a secret life I found on his old phone. Hi everyone, I'm 26 and I broke up with my boyfriend who's 30 this past Sunday. We started dating in July 2023. Everything was very passionate, and we had a great connection. We had actually been friends for a year before we started dating. For the first few months, we went on 1 to 2 dates a week. He met my family, and everything seemed fine. In November, we bought a house together, though it was only under his name, which, in hindsight, was a little suspicious. Looking back, there were some very shady things he did, and honestly, I was pretty suspicious that he had been lying to me during the past year of our relationship. I stayed with him because I truly loved him, saw him opening up more, and thought he was just a closed-off person. He's a veteran and often told me he had bad PTSD, family problems, and so on. However, there were some lies I caught him in, things he probably thought I'd believe that never made sense. 1. He always had some elaborate reason why I couldn't meet his family. By the time we broke up after just over 2 years together, I had never met or interacted with his parents. They live across the country, but my family and he planned multiple trips to see them, all of which somehow got derailed by a sudden injury, sickness, or fight. Each time it happened right before we were supposed to visit, and after a few times, I got fed up. 2. He had a lot of work trips. He convinced me that his job constantly required him to travel. Many of these trips happened during holidays, so he missed Thanksgiving and Christmas in 2023, New Year's, Valentine's Day, and the 4th of July in 2024, and Valentine's Day and my birthday in 2025. It got to the point where I felt I couldn't rely on him for holidays. 3. There were some random Airbnbs I discovered that we definitely hadn't stayed at together. One review included a woman who appeared in pictures with his family on Facebook. He claims she was a cousin, and he still insists that to this day, but I'm sure he's lying. He would get mad when I looked at his mom's Facebook. I've considered reaching out to the woman and might still do so. Fast forward to July 4th this year. He told me he couldn't be with me anymore because he needed to move back to his home state to be with his family and didn't want me to have to uproot my life. We talked and decided to go on a break. He would figure things out while I moved in with my parents for a while. We still kept in contact and video chatted a few times a week. I genuinely thought we were planning for him to move back up since he had a new remote job that allowed him to live anywhere. One day, I was at the house and got a weird gut feeling to check the basement. I found a shoebox with some of his old things and discovered a love letter dated October 26, 2023 from a woman he had never mentioned. When I confronted him, he said she was just a crazy fling from before we dated and that she had found his address at the time, which was 3 months into our relationship. That didn't sit well with me. I'll call her Side Chick 1. A few weeks went by, and this past Friday, I decided I needed to do a deep dive into his old phone. I had never gone through a man's phone before, so I knew that if I found something, I would have to be prepared to leave him. I knew it was a huge breach of trust, but I honestly felt like I was going crazy and needed to verify my suspicions. The threads on this phone ended right before we started talking in June 2023, but they revealed a pattern of serial cheating that I wasn't ready to uncover. Before me, he had a fiancée. His story to me was that they had ended things before we got together and that he had broken off the engagement because he felt pressured to propose and it just wasn't right. He said they were living as roommates until their lease was up in June 2023, but he never gave me the exact breakup dates, only that it was late 2022. At the time, I had no reason not to believe him. His text threads showed that he was very much still engaged to his fiancée and living with her, even house hunting just 2 weeks before he and I started talking. On top of that, he was in serious relationships with 3 other women, Side Chick 1, Side Chick 2, and Side Chick 3. He saw Side Chick 1 at least once a month, telling his fiancée he was going on work trips. He saw Side Chick 2 about 2 to 3 times a year, and Side Chick 3 was more of an opportunistic thing whenever he had free time. She was local, while the other 2 were not. I was able to contact 2 of the side chicks after obtaining their numbers. Here's what I found out he did. 1. He stood Side Chick 1 up at a wedding she paid for. They had been planning it for months. She spent her entire life savings, and he didn't show up, all while still engaged to his fiancée. 2. He would spend the days leading up to a holiday with Side Chick 1, the holiday itself with his fiancée, and send gifts to Side Chick 2 for the same holiday. 3. Side chick 1 told me he lied about his PTSD. He was never in active combat. Instead, he was reprimanded for sleeping around with too many women while stationed. 4. He lied about having a brain tumor. He told both her and me the same story, that he had a brain tumor that miraculously disappeared. 5. He lied about how he and his fiancée broke up. She found out about the cheating while I was dating him and left him. She reached out to side chick 1, which ended their relationship. I suspect she found his old phone like I did. I haven't contacted her since she's moved on and is now engaged, and I don't want to bring this back into her life. 6. For at least the first 6 months of our relationship, he was cheating on me. Side chick 2 told me they didn't break up until December 2023, 2 weeks before my family took him on a cruise. 7. After I found everything out, he tried to manipulate me, asking, "Don't you believe people can change?" No, I don't think serial cheaters can change without years of therapy. I finally built up the courage to leave the relationship this past Sunday. Luckily, since my name isn't on the mortgage, I don't have to deal with that. I'm almost a week out now, and I feel so much freer. I knew for a long time that something was wrong, and I'm still not entirely sure why I stayed. He's very good at charming his way back into my good graces. But I do think finally finding solid proof was the best thing for me. Instead of constantly wondering what I did wrong, I can truly see him for the man he is. I feel bad for staying as long as I did, but I'm glad I got out before kids or a marriage were involved. Story 4. I, a 32-year-old man, have been with my wife, a 31-year-old woman, for 8 years and married for 4. It was a love marriage. 6 months before our wedding, just 2 days before the engagement, I discovered that my very close friend and my wife had been flirting over text. They had never met in person, but somehow they started texting without my knowledge, and it went on for 6 months. I had suspected something for a while, but the long-distance nature of our relationship due to COVID made it impossible to confirm. I confronted them based on my gut feelings, and my wife eventually admitted that they had been talking extensively behind my back. She explained that he had initiated some flirting, but she did not take it further, and told me once she realized I was suspicious. She cried, begged for forgiveness, and promised to block him, which she did. I was hurt, but with the engagement so close, I decided to forgive and move forward. A few months after the marriage, I even suggested she unblock him, thinking I had overreacted. Since then, they have not really interacted, except briefly at a couple of mutual friends' weddings. Cut to 4 years later. One night, she fell asleep with her phone in her hand. I playfully started looking at what she was scrolling on Instagram and accidentally opened her ChatGPT. What I saw completely broke me. She had multiple chats over the past year confessing that she had feelings for my best friend, that she was obsessed with him, and even asking ChatGPT for advice on how to convince me to let her talk to him again. She had also mentioned intimate thoughts about him. My best friend has been in a relationship for 2 years and is completely unaware of this. I confronted my wife the next morning. She broke down, admitted she had a lingering crush, and said it was just obsession, claiming she had learned her lesson and changed. I didn't speak to her for the next 10 days, but I stayed with her. It has been 3 months since then. I haven't been able to fully process or move past it. She insists she would have forgiven me by now if the roles were reversed, saying there was no real cheating since nothing physical happened, but I can't unsee what I read. I've started working on myself rigorously and trying to figure out what to do next, but I still feel shattered. It's hard to decide whether to try rebuilding things or walk away from an 8-year relationship that now feels tainted. I've always been loyal and principled, but my mind has now decided to focus on myself, level up, and see if I can find another woman, as divorce seems like a huge hassle. If anyone has advice, I'm more than willing to listen. I just want help understanding whether I have been overreacting or underreacting. Story 5. Found out my wife cheated on me behind my back with my brother. My wife and I have been together for over 20 years. We have 1 daughter and 1 dog. I'll try to keep this story short. To say the least, we've had problems on and off, due to constant arguments and bickering about our lifestyles, intimate interests, and everyday situations. One day, we got into such a severe argument that we almost became violent. I left for 6 months and stayed at my sister's house in the next state over. When I finally returned, we cried, hugged, and apologized to each other. I felt much better and made sure we were both in good spirits around each other. I hadn't talked to my brother face to face, only over the phone, but we kept in contact most of that time. When I came back, he was really distant and wouldn't come by the house to chat with me or see how I was doing. Finally, a few months after my return, he spilled the beans, and I was furious. I told my wife what my brother had said, and she became so scared that she walked out of the house and slept in her car for 2 weeks. I was so angry that I didn't even want to call her to say it was okay and that we would get through this. It felt like a punch in the face from both of them, and I couldn't work or even take my dog on walks because I was so depressed and distraught. 2 weeks later, she came home and wouldn't stop crying. She kept apologizing, telling me how much she missed me. She said the situation with my brother was a mistake, a one-time thing, and that she had just let her guard down. She explained that one thing had led to another, with him helping her and checking in on her. But I feel disgusted with both of them. I don't know how to feel right now. She has done the worst thing anyone could do at this point in a marriage. We have a house, and I'm trying to sell it and move out of state. But with her job and my daughter, it's not as easy as it sounds. I've actually started smoking pot and playing video games again as a coping mechanism. I told my mom, my brother is dead to me, but she wants us to work it out. I've even stopped talking to her to avoid her responses. I plan to leave as soon as the house sells. My daughter wants to stay with her mother, so I'll have her come to my new place when she's ready and able to do so of her own free will. I still feel lost and disconnected. I'm not sure how long this will last, but it's going to be a while. Story 6. I, a 29-year-old man, caught my girlfriend, a 30-year-old woman, talking to her friend last night about how she met him while dancing. I overheard her on a video call with her friend, and it sounded like she was talking about meeting him while dancing. I've been away for most of the summer for military training, and this isn't the first time she's been unfaithful. When I asked her about it later, she insisted she was talking about her ex. However, we've openly discussed our exes before, and we've never been secretive about them. When she noticed I had overheard her, I had headphones on and then went out for a smoke. She started telling her friend to shush and motioned to the camera to stop. She has a history of downplaying past incidents. She's never had been with someone else, but she has kissed, been touched, and been caught messaging other men. She doesn't work and has a growing alcohol problem. After I confronted her, she gave 2 different answers before finally settling on, I was talking about my ex, but again, we've talked about our exes plenty of times and in much more intimate detail than how she met him. We've been together for 11 years, and I've just been gone for most of the summer for military training. Am I overreacting, or should I genuinely be concerned? Update. For context, here are the instances of cheating I've dealt with before, along with the newest information about some private photos. She has never fully admitted to anything and still denies wrongdoing to this day. Our first instance of cheating was 10 years ago when she went on a trip to Cuba. She initially told me someone had kissed her, but when she returned, I found out that she had actually kissed the guy, or it was mutual, however you want to put it. At the time, I figured it happened, and I didn't want to overreact. I was young and understood that these things sometimes happen, and at least she admitted it happened. The next instance occurred when I was 18 and working nights at Tim Hortons. We both lived in an apartment, but I was the only one working. We got into an argument because she wanted me to buy some weed before I went to work. I was broke and my options were either to buy her weed and walk to work in the middle of winter or put gas in my car and drive. Obviously, I chose to drive. Around 3 in the morning, I got a call from her saying she was scared and upset. So I left work in an emergency, almost got fired and got home. She told me she had invited a guy upstairs who also sold weed to come down and have some drinks with her. She said that he started making advances on her. According to her, she said no, but he continued putting his hand down her pants and kissing her, while she reportedly said stop. I freaked out and accused her of cheating, but she insisted it was an attack. I told her that if that was the case, she needed to go to the police and take action. In the end, the guy was charged with SA. There was literally no proof against him, and I didn't even get to hear her give a statement about what happened. It felt like it was just assumed he's a guy, she's a girl, he must be guilty. I still feel terrible about it because I don't think he should have been charged. I'm conflicted about the situation and don't know how to process it. Fast forward a few years, and one day I check her phone and see that she's in private messaging mode on Facebook with some guy I've never even heard of. She insists it was some kind of mistake, but I lost my cool and freaked out. Eventually, I convinced myself to believe her, that maybe it really was a mistake because if she truly wanted this guy, wouldn't she just admit it and go be with him? And this is where I'm stuck now. I don't know if I'm just being paranoid about a random comment or if it was actually a huge red flag. There's really no way to know for sure if she ever did anything or not. Then, after everything, and especially after what I overheard the other day, I talked to my parents and asked if they thought I was overreacting. They told me no, that the whole thing sounded very suspicious. On top of that, in the first couple of days after I left for my course, my mom said she saw a private photo in my girlfriend's camera roll that she definitely hadn't sent me. When I asked my girlfriend about it, she claimed it was taken later in July, but my mom is certain she saw it less than a week after I left. Story 7. I got a reality check today. So I've been dating this guy since February, and what a turmoil it has been. The gaslighting, the manipulation, and the narcissistic behavior. Things were going really well in the beginning. We were just getting to know each other, going on dates, and it felt very dreamy. In late June, I found out he had been hiding his Instagram stories from me and lying about not being in the city when he actually was. He was going out with another girl and gaslighting me about it. I'm also not sure now if he lied about his profession. He claims to be a doctor. In late June, I made a mistake by texting his brother. He had never introduced me to his friends, saying he needed time, but he told me his mother and brother knew about me. His lying and story hiding made me really insecure and question if I was the other person. Things got really bitter after that. We had a huge fight at his place because of the message to his brother. I kept apologizing and went to his place unannounced. That's when I saw belongings of another woman, everything one would require to live there: clothes, bags, hair clips, and sanitary pads. At that time, I was scared seeing his anger and couldn't confront him about what I saw. I was more focused on avoiding the mess that I may have created just by texting his brother and letting him know that things were not going well between us. In mid-July, I saw him with a girl at Starbucks. That same day, he had told me he was not in the city. In the evening, both of them were walking together. My friend and I saw them through the glass wall, and they saw us too, but chose to go to the next store. I called him, but he didn't pick up. Later, he texted that he would call me later, claiming he was with his father, who had come all the way from BSP to run errands. The timing didn't add up. Our last conversation had been at 2 p.m. and this all happened between 5 and 6 p.m. Afterward, he told me that girl was his ex-bis. I also noticed she had blocked me on Instagram after this, which I'm pretty sure was his doing. When I kept asking for explanations, I found out that she was the person he had been hiding from the beginning. He excused it by saying she wasn't a relevant person, that she was just a friend of friends, and so on. I later discovered that she had been with him throughout all his Goa trips. When I asked in March if there had been a fourth person involved, he had told me directly that only 3 people went: me, my friend, and his girlfriend. Again, his explanation was that it wasn't necessary information to share. Throughout all of this, I felt so lost and weighed down because I really loved him even though he was years older than me. He would be turning 30 in a few months. He still chose to do this. At the end of July, he showed me a video of her and her boyfriend, who she might marry soon, and said he had to ask her for the video to prove it to me. When I asked about why she might have blocked me, he claimed she may have done it out of frustration, though I'm not sure if she really knew about everything. After that day, she apparently bought a car and went for a ride with him. When I asked about it, he lied again, saying it belonged to a colleague. I confronted him, and things got extremely bitter after that. I finally reached out to that girl to ask her about all of this, and she had no answers. She said he is just a good friend of mine, giving no clear yes or no to my questions about the blocking or the car situation. Regarding the belongings I mentioned earlier, he gave the lamest excuse that he was holding them for the girl who lived next door. But if you are holding something for someone, you don't keep it as if it's yours and use their things. The mess this has caused has been overwhelming. I just had my eyes open to everything yesterday. Please be aware. Story 8. It's been a roller coaster the last few months. I caught my boyfriend, 22, cheating on me online. At first, he still wanted to continue our relationship, but I was disgusted and didn't want that. We had been in each other's lives for so long that I considered trying to save the relationship if real changes were made, such as him seeing a therapist. At that point, he decided he didn't want a relationship and wanted to be alone. However, he wants to be friends and keep me in his life. We've gone back and forth on this for weeks. I don't think I can offer forgiveness and put in the work for him if it's not working toward us. I also don't think I could just be friends with someone who did that to me and isn't willing to seek help. I wouldn't keep a friend in my social circle who cheated on anyone. We had a huge, heated argument weeks later, and I told him I cannot be friends with him if there's no potential for a relationship. It doesn't make sense for me to do that. He angrily said some hurtful things, but later that night said his goodbye and told me that I'm the one person he loves more than anything. I responded days later with my final words, explaining how much I had loved him and why I worked so hard to save us, but also that I think he needs help. He then replied that he still wants to talk to me and that he misses me. However, he also mentioned that he isn't ready for a relationship and doesn't want me to wait for him in case he starts dating other people in a few weeks or months. I don't know what to do with this man. Story 9. My boyfriend had a secret life for entire relationship of 6 years. I, a 33-year-old woman, have been with my boyfriend, a 44-year-old man, for 6 years. When we met, we weren't at the best places in our lives, but built what appeared to be a happy forever home together. We bought a house after about 2 years of living together, despite a few minor bumps along the way. 6 months into the relationship, I noticed the number of women he had been messaging with, lines like, "You're so great, you deserve the best in the world." At first, I didn't feel threatened, as I was confident in our relationship. As time passed, however, I felt a growing disconnect, and my intuition told me something was wrong. He broke up with me 4 times while living together, claiming that my distrust ruined our relationship. Fast forward about a year, and I finally discovered what was truly going on. After accessing his Facebook account, I discovered that not only was he messaging women, but he also followed many transgender women. A few months later, I found an old phone of his and turned it on. I discovered that he had an account on Kick, which I had never heard of. Through that account, I found that he had been messaging many people in that community, as well as men. One in particular exchanged numbers, addresses, and other personal information with him. He also works at a job where this man's apartment complex is located behind it, and they had planned to meet during his lunch breaks to hook up. He had never told me he was into this, and no one else knew, except for a single friend who had caught him watching porn. When I confronted him with this information, he accused me of invading his privacy and claimed that I only look for trouble because I enjoy arguing. He even went so far as to tell the people he was communicating with that he had put me on the deed of our home to be nice, when in reality I paid the entire down payment, and he was only added to my credit card to help him build credit. He threatened to call the police, claiming that what I had done was illegal and that I could face prison time. Mind blown. He has since deleted any social media I'm aware of. Today, I randomly asked if I could see his archived chats and trash folder. He refused. I feel that's a pretty simple and reasonable request. I guess my question is, am I the a-hole for not accepting a single apology for what occurred over the years and for expecting transparency? I'm also having a hard time wrapping my head around whether any part of our relationship is truly real. I would love to hear thoughts or from anyone who has been in a similar situation. Story 10. I just found out that my boyfriend has been married since 2017. I don't even know how to start this. I feel like my entire world has just collapsed. I've been in a relationship with a man I deeply loved, the person I thought was the love of my life, my partner, the man I wanted to build a future with. From the beginning, he told me he lived in another country and that the distance was the only obstacle between us. We talked constantly about closing that gap, about future plans, about being together. He said he was literally counting the days to see me, that I was very important in his life, that he wanted to make me happy, and that without me, he would struggle in this world. I believed every word. But now I've found out that everything was a lie. He has been married since 2017. On top of that, he has actually been living in my country since 2022, the same year we met, not abroad like he made me believe. All this time, he pretended to be flying over to see me, when in reality, he was just taking a bus from another nearby city. He built this whole story about long distance, when in fact he was living a double life just a few hours away. I admired him. I saw him as the man of my life, someone strong, successful, someone I could rely on. I loved him with everything I had, and he made me believe he wanted the same, that he wanted a future with me. He would say we were a couple, that I was his ride or die, and that he couldn't imagine life without me. And now, I feel like my entire relationship was nothing but a cruel lie. The distance he made such a big deal about was fake. The future we planned was fake. The love he promised feels fake. I've already told his wife the truth. She said she had no idea and that she's disgusted. When I confronted him, all he said was, "I'm sorry, I didn't have a plan. I am a piece of crap. I'm assuming you're going to ruin my life now like I ruined yours." Later, after his wife already knew, he sent another message. "I'm sorry, you didn't deserve what I did to you. I have no explanation or justification. I'm broken. I don't even know who I was in this relationship. Was I just a distraction? A fantasy? Did he ever really love me? Or was it all manipulation? Right now, I feel like I'll never recover from this." Story 11. My husband cheated on me right before wedding and after. We have been married for 1.5 years. I just found out last night that he called his ex-girlfriend 1 month prior to our wedding. He left work an hour early, met up with her, and spent about an hour walking around a lake on a golf course, where he kissed her and held her hand. He lied to me when he got home. Then, 5 months after our wedding, last June, when I went to see my parents, he asked to see her again. They met at the same lake, and he kissed her. He said she wasn't interested in being intimate with him, but if she had agreed, he would have done it. He even took off his wedding ring and never told her he was married. At the same time, he also messaged another ex, though she never replied. When I returned home weeks later, I found out he had texted the ex who never replied. I was devastated. He promised he would never do that again. Little did I know at the time, what I had caught was nothing compared to the other 2 meetings I only just discovered last night. I never knew he had already met up with the ex who did agree to meet him once before the wedding and once after. I only found out last night about the kissing and in-person meetings. He wouldn't have come clean until the very end. He's got a tight mouth. For 2 years now, who is this person? He said it was ego and stupidity, that he doesn't know why he did it. He claims he's been faithful since last June. What I found out today did not happen after June. All of it occurred around the same time, but I just never knew about this more serious meeting. He has completely destroyed my trust, 1 month before our wedding and 5 months after, with the same woman. Knowing that he kissed her, held her, and took long walks with her, I can't even look at him. I'm in school pursuing my RN, and he is the full support of the family. I don't know what to do. Edit. It was 9 days before our wedding when he first met up with her. He has been in therapy for 10 years, and this still happened. I told him he needs to figure out why. Clearly, whatever he did didn't help. He said he would go back to therapy if I give him a chance, but I don't trust anything he says now. My trust is completely broken. He lied to me over and over. He even swore on his children's lives, telling me that the last time he went out with her was before we moved in together. Then it turned out he went out with her 1 month before our wedding, and again 5 months after. I asked him how he could swear on his children's lives, and he said he did it to save our marriage. Can you believe it? He lied to me on purpose to make me believe his lies. I haven't told anyone in my life because I'm afraid of what they would think of me and him. Story 12. I discovered the affair when I came home early to tell her about my diagnosis. I suppose the only reason I'm writing this is because my current situation and course of action don't allow me to fully open up to those close to me. On the 1st of December, I received the news I had been dreading. All the tests confirmed the diagnosis. I have stage 4 pancreatic cancer. This will likely be my last holiday season. I've made peace with that. I've lived a good life, and everyone I love will be taken care of. I've always been a private person, so my wife Jane doesn't yet know about the tests. I didn't want to worry her until I had clear answers. I'll be heading home early to have the talk with her, something I could never do over the phone or through a text. Well, as you can guess, my life changed more than once that afternoon. When I arrived at the house, I noticed the car of one of my business partners in the driveway. There was no mistaking it. Flashy, expensive, and with a personalized license plate. To say this was out of the ordinary would be an understatement. I pulled up our home camera system on my phone and saw that it was set to privacy mode, meaning it wasn't recording, so I let it be and drove off to my farm property. Now, our camera system is mainly for safety, and I rarely check it unless there's a reason to. That said, I've always enjoyed watching the wildlife on the outdoor cameras, and I find it oddly calming to watch storms roll through. Years ago, for my own enjoyment, I set up a second video recorder to archive the footage locally. That storage isn't accessible from my phone. When I got to the farm, I opened my computer and checked that server, just to confirm what my gut was already telling me, and sure enough, there they were, sitting together in the living room, drinking wine, dancing, and then heading up to the bedroom suite. Apparently, they'd left the doors open because the microphone picked up what happened after they went out of view. With my time limited, I wanted answers, but I do not want the drama of a confrontation or a divorce. Call me what you will, but all of my devotion and love for her left me that afternoon. I feel all the emotions one would expect, yet I know I am not to blame. I have been a loyal, romantic, and attentive partner. Now I am thinking about myself and what matters to me. I called my lawyer, reviewed my will and our prenup, and explained the situation. We worked to understand how long and to what extent this affair had been going on. What we discovered is disturbing. It makes me question whether I ever truly knew the woman I shared more than 2 decades of life with, or if something in her simply changed. For now, I will say nothing to my children, WW, and I never had any, or to my wife. I will put on a stiff upper lip and get through the holidays, giving the kids and grandkids one last holiday memory with me involved. I will be the doting father and grandfather, and then try to play the role of the devoted husband. Some background to answer the obvious questions. The AP is a widower and is not remarried. He is a business partner, but not a friend. I do not invest with friends. I never married my twins' mother, M&F. It was her choice, and I completely agreed that she made the right decision at the time. My children's mother, Sarah, married a very wonderful man, Steve, when the kids were 7. Sarah and Steve never had children of their own. I got my head out of my bum when the kids were 3. I had been involved with them before that, but that's when I started my journey to become the father I wanted to be. Sarah and I co-parented very well, and I would call Steve a friend. Sarah, Steve, and I are all in our 60s. Jane is almost 60. AP is in his 50s. Jane and I are both in our first marriage, and we were in our 30s when we married. What do I need? An outside outlet and release valve. If I am going to accomplish my goal, I need to vent my anger and talk through my situation. What better outlet than internet strangers? I am at peace with how and when my life will conclude. Story 13. I found out my husband has been living a double life. So I, 27-year-old female, have been with my husband, 27-year-old male, for almost 11 years and married for almost 3. I've always known him to be secretive, dishonest, and manipulative, but since we've been together since high school, I stayed. He cheated on me during our anniversary weekend last year, something we've been trying to work through. But he has continued to stay in contact with the other woman. I've grown tired of that, along with the neglect, mistreatment, and manipulation. I had planned to stay until I finished my last semester of nursing school this year and then leave. What I didn't know was that he's been living a double life behind my back. I found out he's been on a certain app searching for women, meeting women on his lunch breaks, and even hosting or attending hotel groupies. Apparently, he is into some weird things and likings I never knew about and has also been paying for OF content. I saw him flirting with other women on social media, even with women who work at the same facility as me. Lord knows what else is on his phone. When I suggested trying new things in the bedroom years ago, he got upset and completely shut me down. So I'm confused why he couldn't just be honest about what he was into. I would have been open to it. I've always been willing to try whatever, and he knows that. I lost my V-card to him, and I just feel so deeply betrayed. But I can't do this anymore. That was my last straw. I only have one semester of school left to finish, and then I'm gone for good. I can't even look at him the same way. I hate being around him. I hate hearing his voice. I'm completely turned off by him, and despite everything he's ever done to me, I've never felt this level of disgust before. To make it worse, I found out he created that account just a few days after he proposed to me. Everything feels like a lie, but when I really think about it, he's been showing me the signs all along. He constantly criticizes me, emotionally neglects me, and treats me rudely. I asked him why he would do this to me, and all he said was that he didn't want to talk about it, so I'm not even going to try anymore. Thank God we don't have children together. Once, I had a false positive on a pregnancy test, and his reaction was to tell me to get rid of it because he had to take care of his family, meaning his mother and siblings. That stung deeply, because I thought I was his family. From that moment on, I vowed never to have children with him. But back then, I was too weak to walk away. Story 14. I found out my boyfriend, 24, cheated on me and got another woman pregnant. What's crazy is that I was foolish enough to believe this man coming into my life was destiny, that we were going to be together for the rest of our lives. We've known each other since we were kids and share mutual family friends. We hadn't seen or spoken to each other for over a decade, and then we reconnected this summer. I fell so hard for him. He treated me incredibly well, putting in so much effort and energy to care for me. I was genuinely happy, and everyone around me could see it. I was literally beaming. We just went on an out-of-state road trip and spent a romantic vacation on the East Coast. On the way home, about an hour away from home, I opened a message on Facebook from a girl I didn't know. It said my man has a baby on the way, that he'd been cheating on me. My whole body started shaking, and I tried to contain myself until we reached a rest stop. He noticed my shaking and asked if I was okay. I said no, and told him I needed him to pull over immediately. He asked, "Is it because of me?" I responded, "Is there something you need to tell me?" All I remember after that is him saying yes and pulling off the highway in the middle of nowhere, trying to find somewhere for us to stop. I completely blacked out. Everything narrowed into tunnel vision. I panicked and felt this overwhelming need to escape. I nearly jumped out of the moving car in that state. He eventually pulled into a dollar store parking lot, and as soon as the car stopped, I bolted. I ran to the other side of the building and called my best friend. I told her what happened and that I needed her to come get me. She stayed on the phone with me the whole time, telling me to keep my distance from him. She knew how badly I wanted to put my hands on him. I wasn't crying. I was in a state of shock and pure anger. That hour waiting for my friend to get there is a bit of a blur. I got the other woman's number and spoke to her directly to hear her side of the story. He had been seeing her since August 22nd. They had done it multiple times and had been talking every single day. He even stayed at her place 3 or 4 nights, and she had introduced him to her kids. She told him she was pregnant, and he begged her to have an abortion, telling her she was ruining his life. He didn't even tell her about me. She found out from someone else while we were on vacation. He apparently told her he was going up north for the week. She said she feels terrible and is very sorry. The night we were supposed to leave for our vacation, he was supposed to be at my place at 5 p.m., but didn't arrive until 9, blaming his mom for being a mess. Now I know the truth. He was at her place, finding out he was going to be a father. I went back to the truck and told him she was coming. He unpacked all my things while I tore into him. I ripped up our vacation photos one by one and threw them on the ground. He just picked up the pieces. Then I sat, locked myself in the truck alone, and waited until she arrived and took me home. Once I got back, I sent him message after message telling him how much I hate him, asking how he could do this to me given our history and everything I'd told him, and saying that I am traumatized. How could he know all this and still take me on that vacation and act like everything was fine? He behaved so normally, it's terrifying how well he hid everything and lied. He says he knows he screwed up and that he'll pay me back the $1,000 I spent on the trip. Now I have to go get STD tested today. I don't know how to function, move on, or heal from this. All I can think about is hurting him. How am I supposed to ever trust someone again? How can I be vulnerable and let someone in after this? I don't think I'll ever allow myself to love unconditionally again. Story 15. Found out wife cheated on me with my best friend years ago. My wife and I used to hang out with my best friend and his family all the time. Whenever we wanted to do something on the weekend, they were our go-to people. I'd known him for years before I met my wife. We were in each other's weddings. I was his best man, and we were the first to congratulate each other when our kids were born. There was a real trust between us. I trusted him so much that I would let him take my wife home after some parties while I stayed home with our kid. To be clear, these weren't wild parties or anything like that, just casual meetups with a few drinks among our common group of friends. I would stay home with our daughter during the first couple of years while my wife took care of her and I went out. Once our child was less dependent on her mother, I had no problem letting my wife have some fun. Over time, these nights out and rides home became almost routine. Since I knew everyone involved and trusted them, I didn't think much of it. Then one night, I was out while she had a few drinks at home with her friend. She was asleep when I came back, and the next morning I woke up before her. I went to the other room and noticed our laptop was open. I woke it from sleep mode, and her email was open. At the top of the message list, I saw an unread message from someone with the same first name as my friend. I didn't open the message right away because I trusted her and didn't want to invade her privacy, but it kept bothering me. I couldn't think of any other guy she knew with that name, and it didn't make sense that my friend would email her without me knowing, so I decided to check it out. I was hit hard by the content of the conversation. It was my friend, and they were exchanging messages about wanting to do it, and there was even a private picture of my wife sent. To be fair, none of the messages indicated that they had actually slept together. It was mostly chatting with a few pictures, but it still made me furious. I woke her up, screamed at her, and stormed out of the apartment. I called the guy, and we met. He admitted that they had kissed once while drunk at a New Year's party at our home, while I was asleep, and again on my birthday, also at our home, again while I was sleeping. Apparently, the second time they kissed, his wife caught them, but they all kept it a secret from me. They claimed it only happened those 2 times, it was a mistake, and his wife had forgiven them. Sure, a mistake that gets followed up with emails about wanting to spend the night and private pictures. I told his wife about the emails. The next few months were awful. We cut off all contact with the guy and his family, and somehow managed to repair our relationship. Still, she never admitted to actually sleeping with him, and it bothered me, but without proof, I left it alone. Fast forward 7 years, we had a second child and were celebrating our 12th wedding anniversary in a cozy mountain cottage. After the kids were asleep, we sat outside, enjoying drinks and an open conversation. When the topic turned to him, she admitted that she had actually been sleeping with him for 6 months back then. I was lost, angry, hurt, humiliated, but at the same time, I appreciated her honesty. She didn't have to admit it. I didn't push her. She just wanted to come clean. And after 7 years of a truly great relationship following those events, I didn't even know how to react. We had a rough few months after that. I reached out to the guy, and he confirmed everything, so of course I told his wife the full truth. It took time, but things eventually settled, and now we're back to the great relationship we had before. Even 5 years after her admission, I'm writing this because I honestly can't forget it. I still feel angry and humiliated, but I also love my wife very much. This is how I live now, with the knowledge that the woman I love was capable of something so hurtful, and that really sucks. Story 16. My boyfriend, 25, cheated on me with a girl, 19, whom I know and see regularly. My boyfriend, 25, and I, 20, moved in together 9 months into our relationship. At the time, it seemed like the best choice since we both needed a new living situation. We lived with his best friend for a while, but his friend moved out for a new job the same weekend everything happened. During that time, I often felt like I was just there to be teased, and it slowly started to wear on me until I began shutting down. After moving in, I realized he wasn't very helpful around the house. Whenever I mentioned it, he would tell me that I complained about everything. I go to beauty school and work 5 days a week, spending over 12 hours a day on my feet. It hasn't been easy to juggle everything, and I became so stressed that sometimes it was hard to even get out of bed. One night, we had a big argument because I stayed at a friend's house, something he does too, simply because I needed some time for myself. When I got home the next morning, he freaked out at me, so I stayed at my sister's that night. The next day, we talked about things we could both do better and agreed that we wanted to make things work. For the past month, things seemed to be improving, but his drinking habits hadn't changed. I also felt like he was hiding something from me. I even told him that I didn't trust him when he went out because I had a gut feeling that something was off. Recently, I received a message from a girl, 19, who I go to school with and also work with. She sent me screenshots of text messages confirming that they had gotten drunk the night I stayed at my sister's and slept together, then hid it from me for over a month. I've been avoiding school because the thought of seeing her makes me physically sick. While I appreciate her finally telling me the truth, it still feels like they both did this to hurt me, even though they claim they didn't mean to. I asked him to move into the extra bedroom because I was so hurt. Now he is trying to play the victim, saying that I treated him so badly that I made him do it. The reality is that I had felt neglected and ignored for a long time. Every time I came home, he was playing video games, and I could never have a proper conversation with him because he was always distracted. Is leaving him the right decision? Story 17. My soon-to-be husband cheated on me. I want to start by saying that I just found out 2 weeks before our wedding date. Here's the story. I am a 27-year-old female, and my fiancé is a 27-year-old male. A small edit to clarify. He has cheated twice, once before 2021 and once in 2024. I only found out about both incidents at the same time, after we had planned and paid for the wedding and started a family. So, to those saying this was a pattern I should have recognized before having a child with him, I didn't know about it. And to those saying I forgave him and that this is my fault, I am only finding out about it now, so there has been no opportunity to forgive or any repeated actions. Just to clarify, we started dating in 2019, and at some point between then and 2021, he slept with another girl. He also slept with someone else in 2024, right before we found out we were expecting. We now have a baby together, and only a few weeks before our wedding date, after a huge fight about something small. Newborn life has been hard on both of us. He told me that he had cheated on me. He said he couldn't marry me without being honest. I really do love this man, and part of me believes we can work through this. I always had a feeling he had been unfaithful in 2024, but I chose to give him the benefit of the doubt. I've been managing as best as I can postpartum, but there are days when I can feel the depression creeping in, trying to pull me down. I just don't know what to do anymore. Story 18. I found out that the guy I was talking to has a family back home. We started talking in November 2022 and ended in March 2023 because I had a gut feeling he was still involved with his baby mama. At the time, I lived in a city 3 hours away from him, and he happened to work at the same location I did. He called me in February this year and again in March. Both times we spent hours on the phone, but a day or a week later, I decided I couldn't be friends with him because my feelings were starting to resurface. Eventually, he came down to the state where I now live, and I completely gave in. We met, talked, and enjoyed each other's company, and the next morning we slept together. He went back home, and I tried not to contact him much for the first couple of days, but then I gave in. A week later, I found myself on the phone with him for over 6 hours while he was at work. He brought up wanting kids with me, and I said I would only consider that if I ever got married. He then said that the next time he came to my state, he wanted to talk about marriage. I wasn't trying to rush into love so quickly again, so I told him I was willing to be vulnerable and get to know him better. The next day, while at the gym, I decided to look up his baby mama on Facebook. It turns out they have a house together and kids. I was so upset that I messaged him on Instagram, asking about her and sending a screenshot of the pictures. He admitted, "Yes, this is true, I'm sorry." My blood was boiling, so I told him I never wanted to hear from him again, called him a coward, and told him to F off. He asked to talk the next day to explain, but I once again told him to F off. In my anger, I messaged his baby mama on her story, telling her that he had cheated on her with me. I was furious and wanted him to feel as broken as I was. She called me the next day, and I called her back on Instagram. I explained bits and pieces, but she was understandably upset. She asked specific questions, then would hang up and call me back to ask more. I assumed she would call him when she hung up with me. She ended up calling him while I was still on the line, and I heard him say, "We weren't good. I was sleeping in the other room. I messed up." The next time she called him while I was on the phone, he yelled at me, telling me to stop adding to what happened. He insisted he would never leave her and that he never came in me. He was so defensive and offended. I was so annoyed because there was never anyone for him to leave. I didn't even know she existed when we were talking. He had talked about us discussing marriage because he was supposed to be single, and doing it with no protective gears put me at risk for pregnancy. His baby mama asked me if there was any possibility I could get pregnant later. I told her I had the implant contraceptive, but that I would have an abortion if I did end up pregnant because I want nothing to do with someone who cheats on his partner and lies about having a family. He talked about being a struggling single father. Honestly, my heart hurts, but I am glad I found out before we even talked about getting married. That would have killed me. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update.